the moon is just a giant rock in the sky, right? Then how does it change shape? To answer that, let's do an experiment. This is the experiment. Now, I want you to imagine that I am floating somewhere in space, and that bright light over there is the sun. This white ball is the moon, and I am the earth. So what does the moon do? The moon also rotates and revolves in such a way that only one side faces the earth all the time. For example, it does something like this. So if this is the moon and I am the earth, it goes around the earth like this. But the thing is, it's not exactly like this. What I mean is that the plane of revolution of the moon is slightly tilted. Now, let's look at what the moon will look like as it goes around the earth from the earth's point of view. Or in other words, what the moon will look like as it goes around from my point of view. Now, let's say this is the first position in its cycle. As you see, it's just in between the earth and the moon, so therefore you can't really see it from the earth, right? Because the side of the moon that's lit is facing the other way. So it's just impossible to see the moon when it's like this. Okay? But then the moon starts moving, right? It starts revolving around the earth. So in about 3 days or so, it comes to this position. Now you see that we can see a part of the moon, right? A part of the side that's facing us is lit, a very small portion, and it's curved like this. This phase is called the crescent moon. It's very common, very popular. More specifically, it's the waxing crescent. Now the moon starts moving again, or it continues to move in its cycle, and in about 3 days' time, it reaches this position. This phase is called the first quarter, because the moon has completed approximately about a quarter of its cycle. And what you see is just that half of the side that's facing us is lit, exactly half, right? Okay, and the moon keeps moving again. This phase is called the waxing gibbous. In this phase, you see that about 3/4 of the side that's facing us is lit, or a little more than half of the side that's facing us is lit. Now in this position, we see probably the most popular phase of them all, maybe even the most beautiful. You see that the side that's facing us is completely lit, and this phase is called the full moon. In this position, the moon has completed exactly half of its cycle, so now it starts coming back towards the sun. And in about 3 days or so, this phase is what it reaches, and this is called the waning gibbous. As the moon moves even further, the next phase we reach is called the third quarter. And in this phase, exactly half of the side that's facing us is lit again, just like the first quarter. Now this phase is called the third quarter because the moon has completed approximately 3/4 of its cycle around the earth. As it moves further, it reaches a phase called the waning crescent. Again, this is very similar to the waxing crescent, but the difference being it's on the other side. And finally, the moon reaches the position where it all began, the phase called the new moon. So after this, the cycle just continues to repeat. And this is why you see different shapes of the moon in the night sky.
Make your child fall in love with learning. Download Byju's personalized learning app.